Good morning. Just had a very cold night here in Colorado. Then it got down to the low 40s, but I stayed warm. I have a nice good sleeping bag. You can see I kept my hoodie on and hood up, and I have my long underwear on underneath it, so I did all right. Well, anyway, I'm gonna get ready and then head to the sand dunes. So, taking a look at our mileage, we're about 2,130 at the start of the day. This is gonna be less driving today than most of the previous days. This is when we're gonna start slowing down, but we'll see where we're at the end. All right, entering Great Sand Dunes National Park, which is National Park number 3 for the trip. All right, made it across the creek. It's kind of a tricky crossing. Water comes in waves, like the ocean. I don't think that happens anywhere else in the world. Pretty cool, but the problem is, when it hits your boots, it has a tendency to swoop over and go inside. The boots got a little wet, but nothing too bad. I'm just gonna have to clean them off after the hike. Camping at such high elevation definitely helped with the altitude a bit. I'm still feeling it a little bit, getting out of breath much quicker than I thought, but I'm no longer, feeling nauseous or having headaches. I think it helps though that I'm a good 2,000 feet lower elevation than where I slept. But yeah, you should have no problem getting to the top of the dune given time. All right, I just made it to the top of what is labeled the high dunes on all trails. Not sure if it actually is the tallest dune. I was talking to some people not that long ago, and they said it was over there by where the dunes meet the mountains, which would make sense since, according to the signs at the visitor center, the sand dunes form, they blow across the valley, and they get pinned up against the mountains. They can't go over it, and that's why the dunes are so big. But All Trails says this is the tallest one. So I'm gonna trust All Trails for now, which may or may not be a good idea. Who knows? I was climbing up, there was a kid sliding down the super steep part on his stomach like a penguin. It was pretty silly, pretty funny to watch. I'm just about back to the creek, though quite a ways upstream from where I parked. I think I'm gonna take my boots off, tie them to my jacket, and just walk down to my bare feet. I've been seeing people off above doing that all day. It looks really nice. Never mind, I am not walking near the creek. It is frigidly cold. Like so cold it hurts your feet. That I'm gonna just walk alongside. Well, the problem now is that the water is too high to wear my boots, otherwise I'll get the cold water inside my boots. And I have already climbed down off the dunes, and there's no easy way to get back except for the backtrack. So instead, I'm gonna kind of hop from shallow end to shallow end between swells and just kind of hope for the best. This was not the greatest idea. I mean, I'm not gonna get hurt or anything. There's no real risk, just my feet are gonna get real cold. Oh Lord, look at this. Luckily, water's not deep, so I can probably just sprint through it, but oh, God have mercy on my poor feet. So I have some good news and bad news. The good news is I was able to find this bluff up here where there's kind of a trail and it's not too bad on my feet. The bad news is I tripped a little and my pants got wet. So they're definitely gonna have to go into the laundry bin after this. I'm gonna have to go change. A good thing there's a shower at the campground I'm going to tonight because I'm gonna need one. The tricky thing here is the water on the side, it's like slowing like this, is actually quite pleasant. The problem is that deep raging water in the middle. That stuff's freezing and that's what gets you. Now that I see where I'm going, I may have picked a poor route back. You can see there's some big sand bluffs on the side here. And down there on the end where all the people are is where my car is parked. That means I have to climb a lot more sand. I was really hoping I wouldn't have to do that. Well, I crossed a section I thought was wide and shallow, but much deeper than I thought. My boots are now soaked, and I have to figure out how to unsoak them since they're waterproof. Good news is, I'm only heading down there, maybe a quarter mile away where that tent is. That's where I parked. So I should be getting there soon. All right, so finished my hike, and unfortunately, poor Fred's place has been taken by all my wet clothes. I know you're probably not supposed to try drying them off in your car, but I figured, you know, the windshields being basically a big greenhouse would heat them up quickly, and that would get my best results, because I do kind of need most of this stuff dry by tomorrow. So, well, here's hoping that parking in the sun and heating them up will get them dry for me. All right, heading out from the Great Sand Dunes and towards Mesa Verde. So, just went over the Continental Divide for the first time. I have no clue what elevation we're at, but must be pretty high. As you can see, there's still snow, even though it's May. I just passed a ski area, and I'm gonna probably have to be careful here because it's a pretty steep road down here. Anyway, very exciting, beautiful drive so far. By far the nicest thing I've seen so far on the trip. All right, I am hiking up to the waterfall right now. Got a pretty nice view. I'm still using the boots. They are not fully dry, but they actually I plan did a good job of drying them out. Mainly just damp. I think I'm gonna continue what I'm doing. I might also put some paper towels in there that will hopefully suck the water out, be a capillary action. We'll see. Holy hell. No, that's a waterfall. Well, that was a great little stop. You can see what the waterfall looks like from the parking lot here. I'm just filming out the front of my car. You can see my laundry drying. You can see poor Fred. His place of honor on top of the dashboard has been taken. He's been relegated to the passenger seat with my hat. Poor guy.
I also saw this train in Durango. I couldn't find the picture I took, so enjoy this one I stole from the internet.
Alright, just entered Mesa Verde National Park. That makes this park number 4. No, I'm not going to be doing much today, just camping here. Mainly exploring it mainly tomorrow.
This day was an absolute blast and felt like a new beginning in more ways than one. It was on this day I decided to ask Julia to marry me. This had been something we had talked about for a while, but being alone on the road gave me plenty of time to think about what I wanted out of life and who I wanted to spend it with. And I decided to progress our relationship to the next level. And with that, I thanked God for a glorious day and went to sleep.
Good morning, everyone. It is day 8. I'm in Mesa Verde National Park. I'm going to be spending basically the entire day here. Actually, I think the whole day here, not even basically. I'm just spending the day here. I'm going to be seeing lots of cool stuff. First thing I'm going to do is go to the visitor center and see if I can get on another one of the tours. I was able to get on one online, but only the short one. I kind of want to go do the long one because it seems very interesting. We're at 2,350-ish miles to start the day off. I don't think we're going to be adding that many more. Maybe about 100 because the park is very big and you have to drive around a lot to get to the different locations. But, you know, today's mainly going to be a hangout and do things day, not a driving day. It's hard to believe. It's already day 8. The days have simultaneously gone by super fast, but also very slow. Individual days feel like they last forever because I'm doing so much, but you know, 2 or 3 of them will fly by in an instant, it seems, at the same time. I've been alone for a few days and I'm starting to get a little lonely. I miss my family a lot, and I especially miss my girlfriend Julia, but I'll be seeing her in about a week, so that's not too bad. I've been alone camping before for about a week and I didn't have any problem, but I think part of what's making this so much harder is that I am so far from home. That previous camping trips were all, you know, a couple hours from my house, and I know I have still about a week longer until I get to see anyone. So I think that's also affecting it. Either way, I'm having a great time. You know, being lonely for a little bit is a small sacrifice to be able to do something like this. It's a great adventure, and I can't wait to see what I'm going to do today. Also, Fred has regained his position of honor atop the dashboard, and he even has a little bit of great sand dune sand to keep him company. I'm sure he's happy to be back in his spot. I will say that while I have been pretty lonely today, I feel like missing my girlfriend a lot. It's not too bad because I have Fred here with me to keep me company. And I will say he is almost as good as a cuddle buddy and gives me a lot less sass. All right, well, I did try to get new tickets for additional tours, but they're all sold out still. So instead, I'm driving around exploring the park until my tour starts at around 10. I'm at Park Point, which is the highest point in the park at about 8,500 feet. And it's pretty tall and flat. I mean, it is a mesa, but there are views in each direction. You can see, I mean, there's another lookout over there I'm gonna go to in a second, as well as one down there. But yeah, it has a pretty spectacular view of the Green Valley below and the mesa itself. And if you see over there, there's like a cliff indent and goes down. That used to be the old road that took you into the park. It was closed because the dirt on the side and the ground on the side is really unstable. So cars had a tendency to slide over the edge, which is, you know, not good. Here is the view from the other lookout point. It's overlooking the mesa itself, and you can see it's pretty flat as far as Colorado goes. Straight out, see those cliffs on the side over there? That's where the Pueblo dwellings are. They're built into the side of the cliffs. I'm gonna go see those a little later. But yeah, spectacular view. You can see really how green it is compared to most places out west. And it's pretty nice because I'm the only one up here. I have it completely to myself.
After my first stop at the high point, I made my way deeper into the park, and the attraction started to change. Instead of focusing on views and scenery, it started to focus on the ruins. They were everywhere, though you kind of had to look a little bit to find them. They blended in pretty well with the cliff sides they were built into. But once you figured out what you were looking for, They were all over the place. Big ones, small ones, here or there, different levels of the cliff. Basically, anywhere it seemed that they could have built, they built a structure. At around 10 a.m., my tour began, which is really cool. It let me get down close and personal with some of the larger structures. The tour was great. The tour guide was very enthusiastic about teaching everyone about the people who lived in these dwellings and their spiritual significance and things like that. So many questions were asked, in fact, it was almost hard to get my own questions in. And normally I'm the one who's asking lots of questions on a tour. We had so many questions. We actually finished late. The other group pushed up behind us and basically just told us we had to leave because they could only allow so many people in at any given time. But it was really cool. I will say the cliff dwellings are a lot smaller than I thought they'd be. In Scooby-Doo, they made them look pretty big, but in reality, they were, relatively small. I think the biggest one they said held anywhere from between 75 to 100 people, so keep that in mind. These are like on the terms of villages, not cities, but they're still really impressive. After the tour, I went around and saw some more of the cliff dwellings. Like I said, they were everywhere. There were tons to look at. And I also saw some dwellings that were on top of the mesa. Before the Pueblo moved into the cliff dwellings, they lived atop the mesa, and they lived there for over 1,000 years before they moved into the dwellings. So there's lots of ruins up there. They tended to be a little bit less preserved because they aren't sheltered by the cliffs, but they were constructed in much the same way, and there's evidence to suggest that a lot of the Pueblo actually lived on top of the mesa and not down on the sides. And even those who did live down in the cliffs did their farming atop the mesa. The whole compound, the whole area may have had as many as like 50,000 people, maybe even more. They're not entirely sure because it's hard to tell exactly when some of the places were habited. I also went to the museum, which was very dated, but it had this very cool pot of preserved corn they think might even still be edible, even though it was harvested, they estimate, in the year 1300 or about there. So it really just goes to show how good they were at farming and preserving their crops. Speaking of corn, it was super important to the people living here. It was their main crop along with squash and beans. And it was so important that they even had a corn deity and a special festival for it. So kind of the center of their life and their religion. I actually thought the ruins on top were, I'm not sure I'd say more impressive, but they were very underrated compared to the cliff dwellings. Of course, the cliff dwellings are the main attraction, but the Mesa Top ruins were super cool. They were a lot bigger, a lot more extensive, and like I said, they were just everywhere. Even if there wasn't a park here, just walking around the mesa, you would encounter them once you knew what you were looking for. The whole place was shaped by it. It clearly was a massive metropolitan area at some point. They're not entirely sure why the people left. They think it may have been due to famine or war. They know there was a drought going on around the time the sites were abandoned, and there's evidence of violence, not on the mesa, but in the valley below, which also had numerous very populous settlements. And they know that Pueblo moved to further south into modern-day Arizona and New Mexico and still exist, though they don't live in permanent dwellings, or at least in permanent dwellings of the same style as these anymore. Overall, I had an awesome day exploring the ruins. It's so cool seeing things this old. There's not too many permanent structures of this age in the United States, so it is really nice seeing some of our own ancient history. And yeah, I had a great day. Like I said, I did miss my family and girlfriend a lot, especially in the evenings. As I'm traveling, a lot of the people traveling, especially at this point, which was during the week and a little before the weather got super nice, were families with kids and old married couples. So it really made me miss, doing road trips with my family, or even just traveling with my now fiance, but at the time girlfriend. That being alone started to get a little rough at this point. I mean, fortunately, I was in beautiful places doing fantastic things, so it was still a lot of fun, but it definitely started to weigh on me after after the first week, and I still had a little bit less than a week to go until I managed to meet up with Julia. So yeah, it was not looking too good, but kept on trucking. Good morning. It's day 9. I have just a little bit over 2,400 miles on the car.
Today I'll be heading to Arches National Park, which is what I'm doing right now. It's a little before 6 o'clock. I actually woke up before the sun came up, but last night I was so tired. I did tons yesterday. I was exhausted. I went to bed at like 8 or 8:30, so super early. So I got plenty of sleep, even though I'm up as early as I am. But yeah, we're gonna hit the road now. Just about to cross into Utah. I will say right now it doesn't look like what I expected it to. It's very green and farmlandy, but I'm sure that will change pretty quick. I'm sure we're gonna go over a mountain range or something and it will be desert. Anyway, this is state, I think number 10. Let me just double check that. Yes, state number 10 of the trip. Getting into double digits. I'll be arriving in Arches in about 2 hours. I'm actually going to be passing another arch on the way, so I'm going to stop and check it out. It's a little bit of a hike off the road. I think it's a total of half a mile round trip, so not too bad. But yeah, should be having a pretty extreme change of scenery here in not too long.
So the first arch ended up not being a hike at all, just a pull off the highway. You could climb up to it. It was, pretty easy. You just drove up and climbed. But it was pretty cool to see. Found some nice, appropriate graffiti. It goes out to a little special someone. And the arch gave great views of the surrounding area. Overall, it was a very nice little stop and kind of whetted my appetite for the national park coming ahead.
Just entered Arches National Park and about to go sit in the entrance traffic jam. I knew this was gonna happen. I had read about it. Still kind of crazy to see in real life.
Many minutes later.
My first stop after the 40-minute wait to get into the park was the Delicate Arch Trail. This trail was the most popular one in the park, and so it was as crowded as to be expected. I fortunately got there and got the last parking spot and hit the trail. The whole way over was just like a constant conga line of dudes. People were everywhere. Anywhere that there was a choke point, you ended up having to wait for people to go through. And at the end, there was a massive line to get your picture taken with the arch. Regardless, I still had fun on the hike. It was beautiful scenery. You saw a few smaller arches on your way over. And I avoided the line by just scrambling up on top of a rock nearby and getting some people to take a picture of me, which I think actually came out better than if I was down at the base of the rock like everyone else. But yeah, it was super crowded. And I kind of see why. I mean, the pictures came out great, but the funny thing is, this is probably one of the few outdoor places I've been to that looks better in pictures than it does in real life. Don't get me wrong, this park is beautiful, absolutely gorgeous, but there's just something about the way it looks in pictures that makes it look nicer than it is in real life. And that's definitely not typical for outdoor spaces. I don't think I saw a single other place on this trip that was like this. And I think because of that, it makes this park a lot more attractive to people who are just interested in going there to get their picture taken with like an iconic landmark and leaving. And as a result, this whole day was full of massive crowds. Afterwards, I went to another arch called Sand Arch, which was also super crowded, and hiked around to a few other arches as well. The final arches I went to were Double Arch and the Windows, which were in a different area. This place was so crowded I had to wait in the car to get parking, which was crazy. These were the last stops I made for the most part. I hit a few more things on the way out of the park, but overall, I will say at this point I was tired of crowds. There were so many people everywhere that it honestly kind of just felt like Disney World at certain points. Like I felt like I was just going somewhere to wait in line to see something for a few minutes and then go on to the next thing. It didn't really feel like a national park, which was kind of disappointing. That being said, I still had a great time, and the scenery was absolutely gorgeous. It feels like you're on another planet, which is pretty crazy. But yeah, it's just a shame that it felt so Disney-like. I feel like it just takes away a lot from the national park experience. All right, so had a good day at Arches, but Moab is overcrowded, and as a result, I could find nowhere here to stay. I tried a bunch of the first come first serve campgrounds, and unfortunately there's no real limit here for how long you can stay in them, and you don't even have to leave anything to claim your spot. You just leave your little tag. So they were all, there was like one spot open, and someone, like there was literally a car right in front of me who took it, but otherwise all the other ones that looked open, they were like booked for the whole week. There was no way I was finding a spot anywhere. I did find like a small privately held campground, but it was kind of sketchy. It was on basically just the side of the highway in a little dirt patch between the highway and a rail line. There was no one there. There's just a box saying like put payment in, and on the back there was all kinds of things like management reserves the right to kick you off at any given point in time. Please, we're not responsible for any stolen valuables. Lock your doors. There have been things in the past, and there were some people who looked like they were basically just living at this place. It also had no stay limit, but because it was privately owned, you're not affected by the general BLM rules of a maximum of a 2-week stay. All the other campsites were on BLM land, so there's that. You can only have a maximum of 2 weeks. So there were people who just straight up looked like they were living there, and there weren't bathrooms, which was there was a porta potty, but it was locked, and it said porta potty for management only, so that was kind of the straw. Unfortunately, I'd already paid, but it was only $40, so not a big loss. I then tried to get a hotel, but quite literally every hotel in Moab, which there are quite a few of, there's probably over 50 of them, was full. All the ones within a 2-hour drive were also full. I was able to get one at a place called here you can see there's some people probably trying to stay on this side of the road. I don't know if that's legal here, because that was the other option thing. I was trying to find some place on the BLM land, but everywhere they had labeled you can only camp in designated campsites, which is unusual. Typically on BLM land, you're supposedly, I've never done it, but I've read online that you can kind of just pitch up anywhere you want, but that doesn't seem to be the case here. My guess is they're worried if they did that there'd be so many, because there were so many people at Arches and there's so many people who come to this area, that it would just swamp it, and it would completely ruin, they're supposed to manage the land, and that would ruin the land they're supposed to manage, so they probably don't do that. But anyway, the nearest hotels I could find were in a place called Grand Junction, Colorado, which is about an hour away, but it's the opposite direction of where I need to go tomorrow. So I ended up finding a place farther away. There was nothing closer to Salt Lake City from here to there, but I did find a place called the Grand Reef or Great Reef, that national park, the Great Reef or Grand Reef National Park, but it was a resort. It was the Great Reef Resort or Grand Reef Resort. It looks pretty nice. It was about $200, so quite a bit more than camping, but at this point I'm kind of desperate. You can see the sun setting. Normally I'd be going to bed around this time, but I have about a 2.5-hour drive ahead of me. It's been a long day. Honestly, not a huge fan of Moab. It's way too crowded and tourist trappy. The national park's nice, but everything else about it I'm not really not here for. Everything there's so many people, everything takes so long. You wait in traffic to get to the national park. You wait in traffic to get a parking spot at the national park because there's not enough parking for all the people. You wait in a line to get pictures of all the important landmarks. I went to Wendy's tonight for dinner, which normally I wouldn't eat the fast food. I'd try to do something local, but I just didn't have the time. I just needed something quick. But it didn't end up being that quick. I ended up waiting 30 minutes just to get my food. There's traffic going through the town. There's just too many people, and it's not set up properly for the amount of people they have, and it's clearly appealing to the lowest common denominator. There's a lot of big tourist trappy type stores, souvenir stores selling all kinds of wacky junk and knickknacks. It kind of feels like the Jersey Shore, but the Jersey Shore manages to do it in a fun way. This one just kind of takes what should have been a very beautiful area of the country and just kind of makes it frustrating. Not necessarily bad. Like, Arches was still beautiful and I had a good time, but it was just frustrating. Anyway, this is probably going to be the longest clip that I'm going to record, because it's basically just me ranting. But yeah, I got a long drive ahead of me. At least I get to watch the sunset over this beautiful landscape here. Too bad I'm not going to be able to go to Canyonlands tomorrow, but I'll be able to go to Great Reef or Grand Reef or whatever that's called. So, you know, still get another national park off the bucket list. Oh, there's the thing I was going to off the side there. It actually looks less crowded now than it was before. It looks like I'm not the only person who kind of thought it wasn't, you know, too good to be true. It's the only place that's open. Decided to leave. Anyway, yeah. Gonna be a late night for me. Bye. So I'm definitely not the only one who had lodging problems today. It's been kind of fun. There were just a cavalcade of vans in front of me, and there are a few behind me still. Watching them try to figure out which pullouts they can legally sleep on. Most of them have gone by now. They found the legal ones, I guess, the ones that are on BLM land that they'll let you sleep on. And it's also been fun watching, you know, like the service stations, the fast food restaurants, places, you know, that are generally going to be open 24 hours and don't care if you park overnight, completely filled with fans. Almost all of them. There's just a crazy amount of people. It's just utterly insane. Hopefully I'll see some more people crammed. Oh, there's some people off the road right there. You see, though, they look like they're back a little. I have no clue. Those guys, yeah, there's a pull-off. We just passed one. Those are people who are just trying to find land that they can pitch up on. Yeah, everything but the sketchy campsite's booked. Sketchy campsite's the only thing open. People even, you know, because like I said, you're not allowed to sleep on the BLM land here. People aren't even taking, and I actually saw them when I was looking for a campsite, them come out and, you know, chase people off. So, yeah, people are even, you know, risking the government over that. Oh, here's another person. You can see their lights pull off on the side of the road. Look at them. Might be two, actually. Yeah, there's two of them. Oh, no, that's just a truck. Well, I guess the truck's gotta, you know, truck driver's gotta sleep too. He's out of luck here. Anyway, yeah, time to keep driving. Alright, so according to the sign I just passed, I'm driving through something called Goblin Valley. I will let you guys know if I see any goblins. I don't even know if I'm in a valley, honestly. I can't see anything but the road. But yeah, I know goblins kind of scary. Luckily, I got the dark silhouette of Fred here to protect me. You know, I'm sure he can fight off a goblin. You know, they're not that strong. They're always like one of the first enemies you encounter in a video game. So I'm sure Fred is more than powerful enough to take one out. You know, I'm sure he'll attack one and be like, "Please don't hurt me. I'm just a little goblin. Please." But anyway, still have, I think, about an hour to drive. All right, so I'm at the hotel I stayed last night. Ended up actually working out pretty well. It's pretty comfortable. This is kind of one of those cheesy Western resorts. I'm in a normal room, but they did have like teepees and stuff I could sleep in, though they were full. I'm going to get breakfast and go to Capitol Reef. I have no idea what to expect. You know, this was completely unplanned, but you know what? All's well that ends well. I'm sure it will be a great day anyway. These are the photos of the teepees and covered wagons you can stay in. I just thought they were interesting. You know, I love this old kitschy roadside stuff, and there's so much of it out here. This is really only scratching the surface. I kind of wish I took more photos of the wacky things I drove past. All right, I'm up and moving. I'm gonna go check out Capitol Reef. I don't really know what to expect, honestly. Didn't, you know, do any research, just ended up here. But I was able to get on all trails a little this morning, so I think I'm going to start with something called Wilson's Arch, or Natural Bridge, which will give an overlook of the Capitol Dome, which is the namesake of the park. So hopefully that'll be pretty cool. On the way, if I pass the visitor center, I'll probably stop in and get some more information.
I'm starting kind of late. It's 9 o'clock, but I got in late, so I slept in more. And yeah, I have about 2,800 miles on the car and about to hit the road. All right, just entered Capitol Reef National Park. I believe that makes this national park number 6. An unplanned stop, but yeah, so far already very nice. I'd say at least as pretty as Arches was, and looks like, I didn't have to wait in a traffic jam to get in here, so it looks like it's gonna be a lot less crowded too. I did pass some boondocking sites, which I guess would have been good to know about yesterday. I could have just come out here and slept for free. They even had bathrooms. Well, one of them had a bathroom. By bathroom, I mean porta potty, but that's enough for me. I don't think I could do it without a porta potty. I know, I did look online, and my dad has some friends who have done it, and they, told me, bucket with cat litter, put it in the car and just use that, but I don't think I could do that. That sounds kind of gross. I think I need at least a porta potty. That's my standard. Not very high standard, but that is the standard. But yeah, anyway, gonna continue on the road, see what there is to see. All right, I made it to this lookout point. It's pretty nice. As you can tell, I'm breathing kind of heavily. I've been going up a lot of elevation. Over there, that circular thing is the Capitol Dome, which gives the park its name, because the people who discovered it thought it looked like the Capitol building. It's called a reef, probably because the people who were guiding these were mariners. And they would use the word reef to refer to any impassable rock section, like you would use the same thing to refer to a reef in nautical terms. It's kind of interesting. You can see down in the valley, it's actually very green. There's actual trees down there, and you can see there's cars already lined up over there. I managed to get the last parking spot in the actual lot. I did have to parallel park Bertha, but it wasn't too bad. For an idea of how far my hotel was, it's just 15 miles in that direction, so very close. I actually drove through this last night, but I didn't get to see any of what you're seeing now because it was dark. I just saw the road and the trees. But yeah, very nice little spot. Not too crowded, though the parking lots are filling up, but that's just because the parking lots are small. This park's not designed for that many visitors, it looks. I say I'm enjoying it a lot more than I enjoyed Arches. No, I think Arches is a little prettier. It's just nice being able to be away from people. Since I was tired from the last few days of doing things, I decided to call it quits on Capitol Reef at around 1 p.m. and head to Salt Lake City. Take it easy for the afternoon, rest and recuperate. Overall, I really liked Capitol Reef. It was a lot less crowded than Arches, and honestly, the scenery was pretty similar and about the same level of beauty. Over the last few days, I had a lot of time to think about marriage and Julia, as I mentioned previously. It had really been on my mind a lot, and I had made up my mind at this point. So I was making the mental preparations on what to do next. The first step was to call both our parents, which honestly was kind of the most nerve-wracking thing, particularly calling her dad. Although her dad's very nice and friendly, there's always it's kind of hard to explain until you're in that situation. It's just very,
you just get very nervous. It's you never really know. I mean, I kind of knew how he was gonna react, but you always assume it's gonna be a lot harder than it is. It seems like a really big step to actually talk to the dad about it. And then I also had to get a ring. So I started thinking about that, making plans, and calling my own family and making sure they knew. So I spent most of the drive thinking about that, and yeah,